You open your banking app and see the same number again, around $1,200 sitting in your savings account. Maybe sometimes it climbs a little higher, maybe close to 2,000. But then something happens. A car repair, a birthday trip, a wedding invitation, a random bill you didn't expect. Suddenly you're right back where you started. Months go by, sometimes even years. You keep telling yourself you're trying to save, but the truth is the number barely changes. Then one day you're talking to a friend, and they casually mention they have $50,000 saved, maybe even more. And that moment hits you hard because you both make about the same salary. So the question starts spinning in your mind. How did they do it? Here's the uncomfortable reality most people never talk about. The problem usually isn't that you're saving too slowly. The problem is that your system is built in a way where saving almost never happens at all. Most people are stuck in a cycle where money comes in, bills get paid, a little spending happens here and there, and whatever is left over is supposed to become savings. But by the end of the month, there's rarely anything left. So it feels like effort is being made, but progress never appears. The real turning point in personal finance happens when your money reaches a certain size, where it starts growing on its own. Investors and economists have talked about this moment for decades. It's the point where your money begins generating meaningful returns without you doing extra work. Imagine having $100,000 invested and earning around 8% a year on average. That's roughly $8,000 of growth in a year, about $600 every single month, created by your money simply existing and being invested. Think about what that really means. To earn that same $600 from a job, you would likely need to make close to $900 before taxes. So your investments would essentially be giving you the equivalent of a raise without asking your boss or working more hours. Before that point, investment growth feels small and sometimes even pointless. A few $1,000s growing slowly doesn't feel life-changing. But once the number becomes large enough, the growth becomes noticeable and motivating. Another important reason savings matter so much is security. Studies repeatedly show that a large percentage of adults in the United States cannot easily handle an unexpected $1,000 expense. That means many people live constantly one surprise bill away from financial chaos. But someone with significant savings lives in a completely different reality. Unexpected events become inconveniences instead of disasters. Opportunities become easier to take because there is a safety cushion behind every decision. So why do so many people struggle to reach that point? A common assumption is that income is the only factor. People believe if they just earned more money, everything would magically work out. But real financial data shows that spending habits usually rise alongside income. When people earn more, they tend to upgrade their lifestyle rather than increase their savings. Bigger apartments appear. Nicer cars show up. More expensive dinners become normal. Vacations become larger. The paycheck grows, but so does the lifestyle. Another challenge is inflation quietly eating away at idle money. If savings sit in a basic account earning almost nothing, the purchasing power slowly shrinks over time. Prices rise every year, meaning money that isn't growing is effectively losing value. There's also a psychological trap many people fall into without realizing it. Humans adapt quickly to new comforts. That new phone, new car, or new gadget feels exciting for a short time. But the excitement fades quickly. What remains is the monthly payment. And those small lifestyle upgrades add up faster than most people expect. Building wealth requires flipping the typical financial habit upside down. Instead of saving whatever remains after spending, the smarter approach is moving money into savings first and building your lifestyle around what remains afterward. Automation makes this incredibly powerful. When transfers happen automatically the moment a paycheck arrives, the decision is already made. There's no debate, no hesitation, and no chance for that money to slowly disappear through random purchases. Another key factor is increasing income over time. There's only so much you can cut from expenses before it becomes unrealistic. But income has far fewer limits. A raise, a side project, freelancing, consulting, or developing valuable skills can dramatically accelerate the journey. Even a few hundred extra dollars each month directed entirely toward investments can change the timeline in a big way. Consistent investing is where the long-term magic happens. Instead of trying to predict the perfect time to buy stocks or chase Risky opportunities. Many experienced investors simply invest regularly into broad market index funds. These funds represent large portions of the overall market and historically have grown steadily over long periods. By investing consistently, you buy when markets are high and when they're low. Over time, this smooths out the ups and downs and allows long-term growth to do its job. Of course, the emotional side of money can be harder than the math. At some point, the market will drop. Investments will temporarily lose value. Watching numbers fall can feel uncomfortable and even scary. But historically, markets have always recovered over time and moved to new highs. Those who stay patient and continue investing during downturns often benefit the most when recovery happens. Another emotional challenge is comparison. Friends might upgrade their homes, buy new cars, travel frequently, and post exciting moments online. Meanwhile, you might be quietly building your savings instead of spending on those same experiences. But here's something worth remembering. Many people who appear wealthy are actually carrying large amounts of debt. The appearance of financial success doesn't always reflect reality. True financial stability is often quiet and invisible. One helpful mindset is to treat unexpected money differently than regular income. Tax refunds, bonuses, gifts, or surprise payments can become powerful accelerators if they are invested rather than spent. Another strategy is creating a pause before major purchases. Waiting a few weeks before buying something expensive often reveals whether it was truly important or just an emotional impulse. Large expenses can also be examined creatively. Housing and transportation usually represent the biggest monthly costs for most people. Small adjustments in these areas can free up significant amounts of money that can be redirected toward investments. As savings grow, momentum begins to build. Each milestone makes the next one easier. What once felt impossible slowly becomes normal. Eventually, something interesting happens. The person who once struggled to keep $1,000 saved starts seeing tens of thousands invested. Growth begins appearing without additional effort. The system begins working on its own. Financial stress decreases. Career decisions become less frightening. Negotiating a raise becomes easier when you're not depending on every single paycheck. Money transforms from a constant worry into a tool that creates options. And that shift is one of the most powerful changes a person can experience financially. The journey doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require a massive salary either. What it requires is a system that prioritizes saving, steady investing, and gradually improving income over time. Anyone who commits to that process consistently can change their financial future in ways that once seemed unrealistic. The first big milestone takes effort and patience. But once it arrives, the entire game begins to feel different. Your money stops working against you and finally starts working for you. And that is the moment where real financial freedom begins. But there's something most people don't realize until much later. Once you build momentum with money, the entire process begins to feel easier. In the beginning, it feels slow and sometimes even frustrating. You might check your account and feel like the progress is barely moving. That's normal. Early on, almost all of the growth is coming from the money you are putting in yourself. Over time, that begins to change. As the balance grows, the growth created by your investments slowly starts catching up with the money you contribute. Then one day you look at your account and notice something interesting. The market growth for that year might be equal to several months of your savings. Later, it might even equal an entire year of what you personally contributed. That's the moment when the system really starts working. The key is consistency, not perfection. People often believe they must invest huge amounts of money to succeed. But the reality is that steady contributions over long periods create powerful results. Even small investments repeated, month after month, can turn into life-changing amounts because time allows compound growth to do its job. Think about it like planting a tree. When you first plant it, it looks small and unimpressive. For years, it barely seems to grow. But underground, the roots are spreading and strengthening. Then eventually the growth becomes visible and the tree expands faster every year. Money behaves in a similar way. One of the smartest things you can do is remove emotions from the process as much as possible. When investing becomes automatic, you stop trying to time the market. You stop worrying about short-term headlines. And you allow the long-term trend of economic growth to work in your favor. History shows that markets go through ups and downs constantly. There will be years when everything feels uncertain. News headlines will predict crashes and disasters. Many people panic during those moments and pull their money out. But patient investors understand something important. Those temporary drops are often the periods when the best long-term opportunities appear. Buying during those moments means purchasing assets at lower prices that may grow significantly later. Another powerful shift happens when you start tracking your financial progress regularly. Watching your net worth slowly increase can become surprisingly motivating. Instead of focusing on what you can't buy right now, you begin focusing on how much closer you are getting to your future freedom. This mental shift changes how you see money completely. Suddenly, saving no longer feels like deprivation. It feels like building something meaningful. Every dollar becomes a small worker helping build your financial future. Over time, you may also notice your confidence growing in other areas of life. Financial stability creates breathing room. It gives you the courage to pursue better career opportunities, learn new skills, or even take calculated risks that could increase your income. Without that cushion, many people feel stuck in situations they dislike simply because they can't afford uncertainty. But someone who has built strong savings has options. They can walk away from toxic work environments. They can negotiate salaries more confidently. They can invest in education or business ideas that might create even bigger opportunities. All of these benefits begin with a simple decision: to take control of how money flows through your life. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything about investing. You just need a system that moves you forward consistently. Every paycheck becomes an opportunity to strengthen that system. Every investment adds another brick to the foundation you're building. Years from now, you may look back at the moment you started and realize it was one of the most important decisions you ever made. Because the goal isn't just reaching a certain number in your account. The real goal is building a life where money gives you freedom instead of stress. And the sooner you start building that system, the sooner your future begins to change. But here's the part most people don't realize until much later. The real advantage of building savings isn't just the money itself. It's the control it gives you over your life. When someone has no savings, every decision feels forced. You stay in jobs you hate because you need the paycheck. You tolerate toxic work environments because quitting feels too risky. You delay opportunities because you can't afford uncertainty. But the moment you start building a real financial cushion, the pressure begins to lift. You start thinking differently. You realize you're not stuck anymore. You can walk away from situations that don't serve you. You can negotiate better salaries because you're not desperate. You can take time to learn new skills or explore better opportunities. Money creates breathing room, and breathing room creates freedom. At first, the progress might feel slow. The first few months might only show small changes in your balance. But consistency begins to compound just like investments do. Each month adds another layer of progress. After a year, you suddenly notice something surprising. The number in your account is bigger than you expected. It's no longer a few $100s. It's thousands. That moment builds confidence. You begin trusting the system. Now something powerful happens. Your mindset shifts from short-term thinking to long-term thinking. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this today?" you begin asking, "Will this decision help my future?" This simple change in thinking separates people who build wealth from people who stay stuck. Another important habit is awareness. Most people never truly look at where their money goes. They swipe their cards, pay bills, and move on. But when someone starts paying attention, patterns appear. You might realize small daily expenses are adding up to hundreds every month. Maybe it's food delivery, subscription services, impulse online shopping, or frequent convenience purchases. Individually, these things seem small, but together they quietly drain thousands of dollars each year. When people finally see this clearly, they often realize they don't need to give up everything they enjoy. They just need to eliminate the spending that doesn't actually make their life better. That alone can unlock a surprising amount of money to invest. But building wealth isn't only about reducing spending. Increasing income can speed up the process dramatically. Many people underestimate how powerful even a small income increase can be. Learning a valuable skill, negotiating a raise, or starting a small side project can add hundreds of dollars each month. When that extra money goes directly into investments instead of lifestyle upgrades, progress accelerates quickly. A person who increases their income but keeps their lifestyle Stable gains an enormous advantage. Time is another critical factor. The earlier money is invested, the longer it has to grow. Even modest investments can turn into significant amounts when given enough years. This is why consistency is far more important than trying to make perfect investment decisions. The people who succeed financially are rarely the ones making risky bets. They're the ones showing up month after month, investing steadily and patiently. Of course, there will be moments when motivation fades. Everyone experiences this at some point. Saving money can sometimes feel boring compared to spending it. But this is where discipline matters more than excitement. Many successful investors treat their savings like a bill they must pay every month. Just like rent or electricity, the investment contribution happens automatically. Once it becomes part of the routine, it stops feeling like a sacrifice. Another helpful strategy is celebrating progress along the way. Reaching small milestones can keep motivation alive. When your savings grow by another $10,000, take a moment to appreciate the achievement, not with expensive purchases, but with recognition of how far you've come. Because each milestone represents effort, patience, and discipline. As the balance grows, something interesting begins to happen. The growth from investments starts becoming more noticeable. At first, it might only be a few $100s a year. Then it becomes thousands. Eventually, the growth itself starts contributing significantly to the total. That's the moment where people truly understand the power of compound growth. Money begins multiplying. The progress that once took years now starts happening faster and faster. And this creates momentum. Momentum changes everything because success becomes visible. Instead of feeling like you're climbing a mountain, it begins to feel like you're rolling downhill with increasing speed. But perhaps the most valuable benefit isn't the numbers in your account. It's the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're prepared. Unexpected expenses stop feeling terrifying. Job uncertainty feels manageable. Life becomes less stressful because you know you have options. That sense of security is incredibly powerful. And once someone experiences it, they rarely want to go back to living paycheck to paycheck. Over time, the habits you build during this journey become permanent. Saving, investing, and thinking long-term becomes part of who you are. You stop chasing quick money. You stop making impulsive financial decisions. Instead, you focus on steady progress and sustainable growth. And that mindset carries forward into every future financial goal. Eventually, you look back at the moment you started and realize something important. The hardest part wasn't the math or the investing. The hardest part was simply beginning. Making the decision to change your financial direction. Choosing to think differently than the majority of people around you. Once that decision is made, everything else becomes a process. A process that gets easier with time. A process that builds confidence with every passing month. A process that slowly transforms your financial life. Years from now, when your savings have grown far beyond what you once imagined, you may remember the day you decided to start taking control of your money. And you'll realize that small decision changed everything. Because wealth isn't created overnight. It's built quietly through consistent choices, patience, and discipline. And anyone willing to follow that path can create a future that feels far more secure, far more flexible, and far more free. Show less. ChatGPT 1:48 p.m. As your balance grows, something else begins to happen that most people never expect. Your relationship with money slowly changes. At first, you were chasing money just to feel safe, just to escape that constant pressure of bills and uncertainty. But as your investments grow, money begins to feel less like a problem and more like a tool. You begin to see opportunities differently. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this right now?" you start asking, "Will this decision move me closer to the life I want?" That small shift in thinking can completely transform your financial future. Many people spend years reacting to money. They react to bills, react to emergencies, react to problems. But when you build a strong savings foundation, you move from reacting to planning. You begin designing your financial life instead of constantly trying to survive it. One of the biggest lessons wealthy people understand is that time matters, far more than perfection. The earlier you start building your investments, the more powerful compound growth becomes. Even a few extra years can create an enormous difference in long-term wealth. Imagine two people who both invest consistently. One starts in their early 20s and the other waits until their 30s. Even if the second person invests more money each month, the person who started earlier often ends up ahead simply because their Investments had more time to grow. Time is the silent partner in every successful investment. Strategy, another important habit is learning to separate your spending from your identity. In today's world, it's easy to feel pressure to show success through purchases. Social media constantly shows expensive vacations, luxury cars, and lifestyles that seem exciting and glamorous. But real financial strength rarely looks flashy. In fact, many financially secure people live surprisingly normal lives. They drive reliable cars instead of luxury ones. They focus on experiences and relationships rather than status symbols. Their wealth is often invisible because it exists quietly inside investment accounts rather than visible purchases. And that quiet wealth is what gives them freedom. Freedom to take time off, freedom to change careers, freedom to support family members, freedom to live without constant financial anxiety. That freedom is far more valuable than any temporary excitement from a purchase. Another thing that helps during this journey is remembering that progress rarely looks perfect. There will be months where expenses appear unexpectedly. There may be periods where your investments drop in value temporarily. Life will always have surprises, but consistency always beats perfection. Even if progress slows down sometimes, continuing to invest regularly keeps the long-term momentum alive. Over time, those steady contributions stack up in ways that feel almost unbelievable when you look back years later. You may also discover that as your financial habits improve, other parts of your life begin improving as well. Discipline in money often leads to discipline in health, productivity, and personal growth. The mindset of building a better future becomes part of how you approach everything. And that mindset compounds just like investments do. Eventually, you reach a point where your savings are no longer fragile. You don't panic when unexpected expenses appear. You don't feel trapped in decisions because of money. Instead, you start making choices based on what actually matters to you. Maybe that means working fewer hours. Maybe it means pursuing work you truly enjoy. Maybe it means helping others or supporting causes you care about. Whatever it is, financial stability opens doors that were once closed. And here's something incredibly important to remember. Every person who has built strong wealth started somewhere. Many of them started exactly where you might be right now. Small savings, uncertain direction, wondering if real financial progress was even possible. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't some secret investment trick. The difference was simply deciding to begin and continuing even when progress felt slow. Because wealth is rarely created through one big moment. It is built through thousands of small decisions made consistently over time. Every time you invest, instead of spending impulsively, you move forward. Every time you increase your income or reduce unnecessary expenses, you move forward. Every time you choose long-term freedom over short-term comfort, you move forward. And slowly those small steps build something powerful. Years from now, you may open your investment account and see a number that once felt impossible. At that moment, you might realize something surprising. The real reward wasn't just the money. It was the confidence, discipline, and freedom that came from building it. That is the true power of financial growth. And it all begins with a single decision to start taking control of your money today. So if you're serious about changing your financial future, start simple. Build the habit of saving consistently. Invest in assets that grow over time. Improve your skills so your income can rise. Stay patient when markets move up and down. Let time do the heavy lifting. Because the system works for anyone who commits to it long enough. One day the progress that once felt invisible becomes impossible to ignore. And when that moment arrives, you'll be grateful you started building your financial future when you did. And eventually, you reach a point where the numbers start telling a completely different story than they did at the beginning of your journey. What once looked impossible slowly becomes normal. The balance that used to stay stuck at a few $100 or maybe 1,000 begins to grow into something meaningful. Then one day you open your account and realize something has changed. Your money is no longer sitting still. It is moving, growing, and building on its own. At that moment, you understand something powerful. The hardest part of the entire journey was never the investing or the math. The hardest part was staying consistent long enough to let the system work. Because real wealth is not built in dramatic moments. It is built quietly in the background while you continue living your life. Every automatic transfer, every investment, every decision to prioritize your future, instead of instant spending adds another layer to the foundation you are creating. And the beautiful thing about this process is that it becomes easier with time. In the beginning, you needed discipline to save money. Later, saving becomes your default behavior. In the beginning, investing felt uncertain. Later, it feels completely normal. In the beginning, the progress felt slow. Later, it starts accelerating faster than you expected. This is where most people finally understand the real power of compound growth. It is not just about money multiplying. It is about momentum. The momentum that builds when good. Financial habits repeat, month after month and year after year. Eventually, the number you were once chasing becomes just another milestone behind you. You realize that the habits you built along the way matter more than the milestone itself, because those habits are what will carry you forward to the next level and the next one after that. Financial freedom does not come from one lucky opportunity. It comes from learning how to control the flow of money in your life. It comes from deciding that your future matters more than temporary comfort. It comes from understanding that small actions repeated consistently are far more powerful than big actions taken once. And once you truly understand that, everything changes. You stop comparing your progress to others. You stop feeling pressure to prove success through spending. Instead, you focus on building a life that actually feels secure and meaningful to you. Because at the end of the day, the goal was never just a number in your account. The real goal was peace of mind, the ability to sleep without worrying about the next bill, the confidence to make decisions based on what you truly want instead of what you can barely afford. Money becomes a tool that supports your life, rather than something that constantly controls it. Years from now, when you look back, you may not remember every investment you made or every dollar you saved, but you will remember the moment you decided to take control of your financial future. That decision is where everything begins. So if you are watching this right now, remember that progress does not require perfection. It only requires a starting point and the willingness to keep going. Even when the results feel small at first, stay consistent. Keep investing. Keep improving your income and your habits. And over time, the results will speak for themselves. Because the system works. Your future wealth is not created by luck. It is created by the choices you start making today. Over time, you'll start noticing something interesting about the way your mind works with money. The things that once felt urgent or exciting to buy begin to lose their power. A new phone, a fancy gadget, a trendy purchase that everyone seems to be talking about suddenly doesn't feel as important as it once did. That doesn't mean you stop enjoying life. It simply means you begin choosing what actually matters instead of reacting to every impulse. This is one of the hidden advantages of building financial discipline. You begin to realize that freedom feels better than temporary excitement. Knowing that your future is becoming more secure brings a deeper kind of satisfaction than any quick purchase ever could. Another thing that happens during this journey is clarity. Many people spend years feeling confused about their finances. They don't know where their money goes. They feel like they're working hard, but never moving forward. But once you begin tracking your income, your spending, and your investments, the confusion slowly disappears. Numbers tell a clear story. You start seeing exactly what is helping you move forward and what is holding you back. That awareness alone can be powerful enough to change your habits. It's similar to someone tracking their health or fitness. When you measure something consistently, improvement becomes much easier. As the months turn into years, your investments quietly continue doing their work in the background. Markets rise, markets fall. Headlines appear predicting disasters. And then the world keeps moving forward. Economies grow, businesses innovate, and the long-term trend of progress continues. Your investments are participating in that growth. It's easy to forget that when you invest in broad market funds, you're essentially becoming a tiny owner of thousands of companies. Companies building technology, creating products, solving problems, and expanding across the world. As those companies grow, your investments grow with them. That's why patience is such a powerful advantage in investing. While many people jump in and out of the market trying to guess short-term movements, long-term investors allow time and economic progress to work on their behalf. And time is incredibly powerful. A single year of investing may not look dramatic. Even 5 years can sometimes feel modest depending on market conditions. But 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, that's when the real transformation begins to appear. What once looked like slow progress becomes substantial growth. At that point, you may realize something fascinating. The habits that once felt difficult have now become automatic. Saving part of your income feels normal. Investing regularly feels normal. Thinking about long-term financial security feels normal. You've become someone who builds wealth naturally. And this identity shift matters more than any single investment decision. Because once your mindset changes, your future decisions automatically support the life you want to build. There will still be challenges, of course. Life is unpredictable. Unexpected expenses will appear. Opportunities will come and go. And sometimes motivation will dip. But strong habits act like a compass. That keeps you moving in the right direction even when things feel uncertain. That consistency is what separates people who struggle financially from those who steadily build wealth over time. It's also important to remember that wealth isn't just about numbers in an account. Money is simply a tool that gives you choices. It allows you to design your life with more flexibility and less pressure. For some people, that means traveling more. For others, it means starting a business or supporting family members. For some, it simply means living without constant financial stress. The goal isn't to impress anyone with how much money you have. The real goal is to create a life where money supports your happiness instead of controlling it. When you reach that point, something surprising happens. The anxiety that once surrounded money begins to fade. You stop checking your account with worry and start checking it with curiosity. You stop feeling trapped by financial obligations and start feeling empowered by financial possibilities. And that feeling is incredibly valuable. Think about how many people spend decades worrying about money. They work hard, earn income, but never quite feel secure. They always feel like one unexpected problem could push everything off track. Building strong savings and investments removes that constant background stress. It gives you stability in a world that often feels uncertain. But again, none of this happens overnight. It happens slowly, step by step, decision by decision. One smart financial choice today might not seem like a big deal, but hundreds of those choices over the years build something powerful. Progress compounds. Habits compound. Confidence compounds. And eventually your financial life looks completely different from where you started. You might look back and remember the days when saving even a small amount felt difficult. You might remember the uncertainty you once felt about investing or planning for the future. But by that point, you'll also realize something important. The system works. When you save consistently, invest wisely, and stay patient, the results eventually show up. They might not appear instantly, but they arrive steadily. And when they do, they create a kind of freedom that many people spend their entire lives searching for. Freedom to choose how you spend your time. Freedom to walk away from situations that no longer serve you. Freedom to focus on the things that truly matter in life. That is the real destination of this journey. Not just a certain number in a bank account, but a life where money supports your goals instead of limiting them. And the path to that life begins with one simple step that anyone can take today. Start paying attention to your money. Start saving a little more than you did before. Start investing for the future you want to create. Because every great financial story begins the same way, with someone deciding that today is the day they start building something better for tomorrow.